Oh, all right. Here we are. It is Tuesday. And if it's Tuesday, 11:30, this is Seattle Sports Weekly. I'm Boss Vita Mara, your host, and so excited today. I don't even know where we're going to go, but we're going to go somewhere because with us is Percy Allen. That is our special guest. So he's going to come on and just talk. We're going to talk everything basketball. We can talk high school, we can talk college, pro, and then I have a special tribute that we have for everybody, and that is I did a Gus Williams interview. There we go. I'm just kind of fixing the camera a little bit for y'all. There we go. And with the new technology, high resolution. But yeah, so we're gonna Gus Williams interview that I did when he was here when the sports commission did they honored the Sonics. So we'll play that audio cut, watch a couple highlights. We'll talk Sonics again. We'll just talk all things basketball. We'll talk high school. That's just who Percy Allen is. I mean, what an honor. You talk about someone that knows basketball in the city of Seattle. I mean, from what's happening at Rotary to what is happening in the NBA, WNBA, all of it. Yeah, just all of it. He is the one. So we'll get to him in a couple minutes here. But I thought I would obviously start off with the weather. I know, but I like to bring it all around and talk about certain things. And happy post Martin Luther King Day to everybody, and peace and justice. And yes, we have a new president, and well, we're just gonna have to wait and see. That's all I can tell you. But I'm of the mind of look, yeah, fool me once, shame on me. Fool me twice, fool me once, shame on you. Fool me twice, shame on me. Type of situation, and so you have to have a little bit of an open mind. But as they say, and we all know it, and maybe it's already happening, right? Do not forget the past because else you'll be doomed to repeat it. So, in that regard, we're just gonna have to wait and see. I think it'll be an interesting ride. And I always think about, is this how when you look at the other sides of things, you go, okay, when I had it my way, right? Now I see how the other people or those that didn't see how I saw it, how they felt. And now my chance is here to how am I going to behave? I'm not going to belittle, I'm not going to make fun of, but I'm going to be leery. I'm going to use the power that's there for the United States, which makes this a democracy, right? Because we all talk about peace and all these things. It's going to be interesting. I think it's going to be an interesting ride, and it's going to test our resolve and people, to put action where they, talk a lot, but no, what action is going to be taken? Look, this country has gone through worse. Even when you go back to, let's start. Where can I go with indentured servants, with slavery, the Boston Tea Party, uh, Brown versus Board of Education, civil rights, the women's suffrage, all those things, three strikes you're out, the war on drugs, all those things. I think if you take those things into account and who we are and what we can do as a nation, both sides, that's the great thing about America. Let's be honest. We do have some choices that in other countries they don't. And there's certain ways to fight, injustice and those things, and we continue and people continue to do that. So that's my take on it. No more sleepless nights. No more trying to this guy. I don't know. The sky's falling. It might be falling a little bit, but man, I got an umbrella. I'll stay inside and weather the storm, if you will. So there you go. Just in terms of the overall, yeah, sports. It's an overall sports. Ohio State beat Notre Dame. An impressive game. I thought that it just goes again to show you Ohio State was faster, bigger, better. Marcus Freeman, the coach of Notre Dame, did the best that he could and did some good coaching there. Some connections. G. Scott. G. Scott Jr. plays for Ohio State, and we all know G. Scott. He's a friend of the show and personal friend and things like that. So he was there. It was great, that his son was there and, father, son. So shout out to the Scotts. And I haven't talked to G. Scott Jr. for a while, but a fine young man. The times that I ran into him, just an amazing, amazing kid who's grown up to, as I said, amazing young man. The other one, Jeremiah Smith. And Smith, what is that? It's not, Smith is a common name, right? But Jeremiah Smith is cousin to Geno Smith of the Seattle Seahawks. So there you go. Some connections. I'm sure there's other ones, but those are the ones I was able to pull out. And speaking of the Seattle Seahawks, you're kind of saying, what is going on? Well, they're continuing their assistant offensive coordinator search. And a ripple kind of came in yesterday. It started Sunday when the Detroit Lions lost to the Washington Commanders, Bobby Wagner, and also Dan Quinn. Seahawks connections everywhere. But in terms of closer to home, with the Seahawks offensive coordinator search, the Chicago Bears hired because the Detroit Lions are out. So the Commanders continue. They're playing for the NFC Championship game. They win that game, and then they will what? Then they'll go to the Super Bowl. Now, the NFL rules say that once a team is out of the playoffs, you can request to have an interview with that individual. So the Detroit Lions lose. The Chicago Bears had an interview, and they quickly hired Detroit Lions offensive coordinator Ben Johnson as their new head coach. Great move. What does that have to do with the Seahawks? Well, the deal with that is the Seahawks were looking at, and they still are, at Lions offensive line coach Hank Fraley. Now, Fraley actually is coming in for a second interview this Friday. It had been believed that once Johnson was hired, that Fraley was off the table. That is, off the Seahawks. They had one interview with him. So many thought no, and it might still happen that Ben Johnson would then bring along Fraley as offensive line coach, and that's what a lot of coaches do, right? The head coach, they'll offensive coordinator, they will always they're linked with that offensive line coach. The reason is obvious. The offensive line coach works with the linemen, but more intricately, it's about the gaps, the schemes, and where they're running, and those kinds of things. And if the offensive line coach and the offensive coordinator, they're intertwined, and so they have to be on the same page, if you will, because one's calling the play based on the conversations and what the scheme that they have drafted up. And nobody knows how to draft up that theme better than the offensive line coach, because he's able to say, hey, we're able to run through the A and the B gap, or no, let's do more jet sweeps, or no, let's go outside the edge. And that's why right now, if you notice, the Seattle Seahawks, Scott Huff, who came along with Ryan Grubb, is still in limbo, because head coach Mike McDonald said, you know what, I'm going to let the offensive coordinator make the choice of whether to keep Scott Huff or bring in someone new. So that is where that stands. And Fraley is the third coach. The Seahawks have had 2 interviews with Minnesota Vikings assistant defensive coordinator Grant Udinsky, and also New Orleans offensive coordinator Clint Kubiak. I think both of those are good. You know, the Vikings and the Vikings are had a good run game, and so that's kind of balanced offense. That's kind of what Mike McDonald is looking at. Number one, you got to run. You got to run the game. You got to be able to run the ball, and that is the name of the game, if you will. And also the New Orleans Clint Kubiak. Again, the Saints had a good running attack, and again, that's what McDonald is looking for. And we talked about this with Corbin Smith last week. And really, if you're saying, well, what do you mean? McDonald wants a team that will be able to run, dominate the first, win the early downs, first and second, maybe not get to third down, but get to third and manageable. And in addition to do that, to be able to do that, what McDonald envisions is a team that, let's say there is 5 minutes left in the game and you have the ball. The thing in the NFL now is, can you grind out the clock? Can you run out the clock, basically, with 4 or 5 minutes left? Can you take the ball downfield, control the clock, and then score when you need to, but not too early? That was the issue. We talked about this last week. That's where Grubb, his mindset was to score as quickly as possible or use the pass more. And McDonald was like, nah, bro. You got to be able to run that 4 or 5 minute offense. So there you go. The Seahawks also interviewed Thomas Brown, who was the Bears interim coach. I don't know if I have a second interview with him. And for me, the troubling thing I saw was like, wait a minute, Leslie Frazier interviewed for the Dallas Cowboys job, and let's hope that's just more of I can't see Leslie Frazier coaching. He'd be a great coach. He is. Leslie Frazier was the assistant down. No, Frazier's alive and well. That Frazier, down goes Frazier. The famous Muhammad Ali quote. Famous Howard Cosell quote when Muhammad Ali hit Frazier. And anyways, we'll go back to our Leslie Frazier, who has been around, was amazing, was a coach over at Buffalo Bills and also the Vikings, but a Hall of Fame player, obviously. And he was assistant head coach to Mike McDonald and really helped him. And it's an amazing man, one of the greatest cornerbacks to play. And during practices, you could see him working with the Seahawks defensive backs, showing them. And what I mean by that is the movement. When they take the 3-step drop, which way do they turn? So that is there. Big day today. The Major League Hall of Fame voting will be announced, and Ichiro Suzuki. Hernandez is there as well, but I just don't know if Felix Hernandez will make this round. But he's on there. But most people are looking at Ichiro Suzuki being a first-time ballot into the Hall of Fame. So, he's a legendary kid. 2001, he led the American League with 350 batting average while leading all of baseball and with hits, 242, and steals. And he had 10 consecutive Gold Glove awards. So, there was always this thing about, he played, years over there in the Japanese league, the Nippon League, and he won no 19-year-old rookie, mind you. But I think it's amazing that when he did, he came here, played 19, yeah. So in Major League Baseball, 19-year career, and just amazing, what he's done. So there is no doubt now, and that's what it's about. All right. So as I said, just so honored to have our guest coming on. And man, I tell you, as I said, nobody knows more about basketball in Seattle does, and will than Percy Allen. I mean, he'll tell you right now, what's happening with the Rotary Boys and Girls Club, what's happening in the high school, what's happening in college and in the NBA, and he knows it all. And as I said, we're going to pay a little tribute to the Sonics, but right now, let's bring on the one and only the great Percy Allen.
Oh, my main man, Miles. You know, I should have you do my intros everywhere. That was awesome. Thank you.
Well, you're welcome, but it's the truth. Like, I didn't have to make nothing up. You know what I'm saying? You just go Percy Allen. Oh
Well,
yeah.
the rotary part, I don't know if I'm scouting sixth grade, sixth graders at Rotary. That might, well, you know what? Let me take that back. I have a sixth grader at Rotary, and I'm often at his. So you know what? You're actually kind of spot on there. Yeah.
I knew that. See, welcome. Happy post delayed or post Martin Luther King Jr. Day.
Yeah. Yeah. Thank you, and Happy New Year to you. I don't think I've seen you this year.
No, no, not at all. And I'm still gonna. We have a lunch. I told you I'm gonna take you to that Sarafina,
Yeah, man.
the
Yeah, man.
African restaurant over there. And so, yeah, that's still on there. I haven't forgotten, and I need to be a man of my word. You know how hard that is.
Well, you're so busy. So that's what it is. Like you're here, you're there, you're everywhere. So I get it. So just let me know when, and I will clear my schedule for you, as I do.
See, I told you all about basketball is one thing, but what a great man. So appreciate you for that. Yeah. Now I don't control the sound effects, but the great D Money does. So I don't know if
Yeah,
I told you, but I had an interview with Gus Williams. So we talk about a
yeah.
little bit when he was here a couple years ago. So we're gonna play that, and then we can
Mhm.
just talk. I have some grainy highlights, and then we can talk Sonics, and then we'll just. I mean, man, Percy, like I told everybody, we'll just take it wherever it goes. But let's D Money, can you pop up the Gus Williams interview? Spin. What are you up to, and what's going on?
Well, I've been living a quiet life down in Myrtle Beach, South Carolina, and the people of Seattle have been so nice to congratulate us and get us back to Seattle for the reunion. And it's been great to see these guys after 30, 40 years. I mean, I come out to Seattle 2 3 years, two times a year anyway. But I see the guys, Wally, Fred, Jack, Lenny, they live here, but there's half of the team that don't. So it's really great to see those guys after all this time, and we didn't miss a beat. I think we jumped right on in, giving each other the business, and start reminiscing about the good old days.
And you never know when you kind of bond together.
Mhm.
But how special is it now to see that? I mean, as years go by, relationships get even more sweeter.
It is just, you called it. I think it doesn't come easy. I think I've been playing basketball since I was 5 years old, and I've been on many teams. And my high school team and the championship years, those are the two teams that are really bonded well with each other and could never replace that.
When we talk about execution tenacity, let's go back to your playing days. And what was that drive? Because when you went to the basket, you were on your way. Can you take me inside? That drive you had.
I don't know. It's competitive. I think everybody in the NBA, they have it. You don't get to the NBA not being competitive. And just some people have a little bit more than others. But with our team, the way we push each other, the way we help each other, it just makes that even more intense, the drive. So I think all of that really helped winning. And that's all. The bottom line is winning. But what's unique is everybody has the drive, but not everybody's as grounded. What kept you grounded along with the competition? Because you can self-destruct if competition. Oh, well, I think that comes with the players, your teammates, as well as the coach. You know, and I tell people, I don't know if there's been a scientific study of of if you like each other or you bond with each other, does that translate to winning more games? I don't know, but I know it didn't hurt us. So, and that's what I'm really a treasure for the rest of my life.
And obviously, you're an advocate to have the Seattle have another team. That's a slam dunk, right?
No doubt. Who hasn't? I mean, this is 40 years later, and they still honoring us. So, they still have the hunger, and they deserve a team. They deserve a franchise here. This team will be supported unbelievably. So, I still believe it's going to happen.
Right.
Wow. Nice job, my man.
Thanks. Yeah, I pulled that out. I was like, wait a minute, I have that. Appreciate that coming from you. So just, you covered the Sonics. What do what do you take away from this, Gus, and that team?
It's just so many thoughts, but I just enjoyed listening to that interview, just hearing his voice. Uh, yeah, and just watching those grainy, footage there. It was maybe not too surprising that footage that there's really nothing from the Sonics for time, right? That was all his time with the Bullets, But and then I was watching that and just hearing his words, and I was thinking, who does he remind me of today?
Mm,
Like, who would be a good comp today? Because now, and I'm gonna keep it 100 that I didn't grow up in Seattle, so I grew up in Cleveland, and I didn't really know or appreciate Gus Williams when he played. I just didn't, right? I was I was like 10 years old at that time, other side of the country, before Twitter, before ESPN, right? And so games, there weren't a lot of supersonic games being played in Cleveland. They just wasn't, right? They just and right. And then there's that famous story that, like, even when they went to the finals, that was tape delayed, right? Um and so I'm just like trying to think, like our version back in Cleveland was World Be Free. I don't know if you
mm,
remember World Be Free, but he was very similar to like Gus in the sense that here's your point guard, but he's probably your best scorer. And he wasn't necessarily an assist type of a point guard. And so it's just so interesting that how that team was structured and what Lenny Wilkins did with that team, and how, maybe he put the ball in Dennis Johnson's hands. And Dennis was more of the facilitator. JJ was more of the facilitator. I mean, JJ was a point forward even before there was like point forward. And just right, like we could talk about those teams like all day long, and with Sigma, and then with Marvin Little, later, and just how that team was composed. But your point guard wasn't your assist guy. Like, your point guard was there to score. And
mm.
so just watching those, like, that footage there, that mid-range game too, like, just drive down, step jab, and I'm gonna pop right here, bam. And like, he knew, like, he didn't try to go for a rebound. Like, I'm gonna shoot this, and I'm walking back the other way, right? And like, he was just so good that way. And that nickname. I mean, just this was back when everybody had a nickname, and his was so good, right? The Wizard. I mean, just, come on. I mean, so that's what my quick takeaway was, just from listening to that interview, watching those films. Like, I'm trying to think, okay, could that style even work today? I don't know. Because there's so much on this three ball now, and so you got to shoot the
Mhm,
three, and like
mhm.
driving, and the mid-range game has been so de-emphasized. But I would like to think that great players would always find a way. I don't care who you are. Great players will adapt to today's game, and Gus Williams was a great player.
And the Seahawks get the credit, get more credit more about how they were in the community. But it seemed like part of the reason why people want the Sonics back wasn't so much the championships, but who they were in the community. Is
Almost
that a
definitely,
fair
yeah.
statement?
Oh yeah. So again, I'm not gonna fake the funk that I wasn't here, but I hear the stories. Right?
Yeah, correct.
And so if you talk to those guys, yes, you are very much spot on that they were in the community, that they lived here, and that they interacted. And this was just a different time in sports, to where, like, your sports heroes and superstars, they were accessible. They were hands-on. They were at the local watering hole, right?
Mhm.
Either if not after the game, like sometime that week, like you could see them. With like Lenny Wilkins, like I talked to Spencer Haywood like all the time, who like like he would host, like these block parties. Man, I wish I was around back there. Oh boy, I tell you, man, these young folks nowadays, they have no idea how good it was back. Like imagine a Spencer Haywood block party. You know what I mean? Oh boy. And so they were just around and accessible. Who tells this great story? uh Dale Ellis tells and like this is Dale Ellis, who was this is somewhat aloof, right? Dale wasn't touchy feely at all.
Mm-mm.
Dale wasn't. Like Dale was a little prickly, and like it took a little while for, but like Dale would tell these stories of just like hanging out in Seattle and just intermingling with just fans and just spectators. And so in the community, yes, very much more so, very different than today's era of where the superstar play with just players in general, that they do their thing and yet you may never see them anywhere but there or at some organized event. These guys were very much your neighbors. Truly, like they were your neighbors. They lived in Mount Baker, right? Like they
Yeah,
lived
that's right.
in like Seward Park, right? They lived around Leschi. Back then I think it was called the Leschi Lake Cafe. Like
Yes,
guys would just
yes.
go,
Hold
that's
on,
my
put it
hangout.
on mute.
I know. I shouldn't have gave it away, but and like man, if
Oh.
boy, I tell you, you know what? They should give me some like money for all of the bits. So yeah, like that's where folks would hang out. And like even still, like you can kind of go down and just kind of see some of the old, old heads, and they just sort of gather. And so yes, very much so. That's a long-winded way of agreeing with you and saying yes, they were very much in the community.
Nah, man, appreciate appreciate the words. Yeah, because I think the Gary Payton and Sean Camp and also Detlef kind of embrace that, and a couple of them are still around. But I think it all started with, like you're saying, the older Sonics generation, if you will, to this point. And then, are they going to get a team or not, Percy? Sonics coming. When are they coming? Are they coming? Because
I would say yes. So the short answer is yes. Now the real part is the win, right? Yes, they are. I think we know who the team, or like we think we've identified where the cities are: Seattle, Las Vegas. It's just a matter of when do they have to come in together. Now that's just going to be the part now, right? Like that's what I'm wondering now, that because it appears that Seattle has more of its ducks in order, right? They've identified a potential ownership group with the Kraken, folks there who have done a fantastic job just in terms of, obviously, there was some, like they've got to now rework it now just with the like passing of the Kraken owner. But I think that they have their sort of ducks in order, lined up as to how it would work. The arena looks great. But now you take a look at Las Vegas. I don't know who the ownership would be. We think we know where the arena is, but that's not quite done yet. So, yeah, it's just a matter of, is it Seattle by itself and then you wait for Las Vegas for a while, or do you try to bring two teams together, 32, which is more symmetry there? You don't have to make all of the changes. So, I think it's a matter of yes, it's going to happen. When is it going to happen? Now, that being said, too. Um, I've been asked this question ever since they left. And so this is dragged on, right? Yeah, like we just have to just sort of say that part too, that this is, and I could say 6 years ago, I thought, yeah, we are closer. We're closer. And so yes, we're closer than what we were before. Now, does that mean, this is gonna happen in 2026? That's pushing it. Like we all thought that that a some type of decision would have been made by now. Like at least at the All-Star game. If nothing happens at the All-Star game, then you can take 26 off the board. We all thought that once the TV deal, the multimedia contract was like settled and like signed, that like that was going to be okay. Now they're ready to tackle expansion. But then it seems like, well, something else just came up. It's the sale of the Boston Celtics, right? And so now that seems to have Adam Silverman's attention. And so let's see what the Boston Celtics go. But my point will be then it's always going to be something, right? It's
Mm-hmm.
always going to be something. So yeah, it's the Celtics sale, which could be extraordinary. I mean, like now that's not nothing. Now let's keep that 100. Like that's a big deal. Like I mean, anytime you're talking about one of the tentpole franchises, and who knows what that number could be, right? I mean, we're talking B as in billion, and what, 6, 7, 8 billion? I don't know. I mean, that's just going to be a crazy number, and then that will then somewhat affect what the expansion fee is going to be, right? Yeah, that's always a big number, but there's always going to be a sale of the team. If not what's happening with the T-Will situation, right? There's always going to be something. So, um, but I do think let's keep an eye on what happens at the All-Star game this year. um I really thought some type of decision, at least at the very least, and it's not like we, like I'm expecting Adam Silverman to say this, but if he says we're organizing a committee,
Right.
we're organizing a committee to take a look at, then that's there you go. All right. Okay. Well, that's more tangible. That's more all right. Still doesn't mean, you know, still doesn't mean 2026, still doesn't mean, start, lining up for tickets or anything like that. But that's more tangible that like, okay, like now, something more has happened.
All right. Thanks, Percy. Hang on. We're going to go on break. We got to pay a couple of bills here. We'll come back, talk WNBA, Kelsey Plum, and whatnot, what have you. All right. So this is Seattle Sports Weekly. I'm Oz Vita Marriott. We have the great Percy Allen with us. We'll be right back.
Ladies and gentlemen, this is Rainier Avenue Radio.world, the station that cares about our community.
Hey, Seattle, here are some storage tips to love food, stop waste. Onions make potatoes sprout faster. Keep onions away from potatoes. Ripe bananas give off a gas that makes the fruit around them ripen faster. Store bananas away from other fruits. 40% of food in the U.S. goes uneaten. Save money, save food, save the planet. Visit Seattle Public Utilities for more tips.
Greetings. This is your host, DJ Neftali, Rainier Avenue Radio.world, the best DJ in the Seattle area. You can catch me every Monday at 8 p.m. on YouTube. Like I said, this is DJ Neftali, the best reggae in Seattle, Washington, the best radio station, Rainier Avenue Radio.world. Come on, right?
What it do? It's Maharaji from the Emerald City Posse, and I like to talk about my legendary brother, DJ Nasty Ness, who's been going through a difficult time lately because of some medical expenses. As you all know, he was in the hospital for a while, but it took toll. And what we need to do is come together and help this brother out. Go in the pockets, grab them lint balls with all them change and everything you can get, and go to GoFundMe.com, support Nasty Ness Rodriguez Road to Recovery. It'd be much appreciated. Ness has done a lot for the town. We all need to come together, man, and help support this brother.
Tune in to Real Estate and Money every Tuesday afternoon from 2:30 to 3 here on Rainier Avenue Radio.world. Join your hosts Violetta Strash with John L. Scott Kent North and Tina Lombard with Guaranteed Rate Affinity. They'll help you navigate the waters of our volatile real estate market and offer you some guidance on how to make your hard-earned money work to make your dreams come true. Learn about current trends, get tips on financial matters, and have fun, interactive discussions about your home inside and out. That's Real Estate and Money.
A new law is helping people save more money on prescription drug costs. You may also be able to save. With Medicare's Extra Help program, your premium cost can be zero and your out-of-pocket expenses are low. Who should apply? Single individuals earning less than $23,000 a year or married couples earning less than $31,000 a year. Even if you don't think you qualify, you should still check out this program. Visit ssa.gov/extra help. Medicare costs are covered by the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services.
Would you like to see when your favorite Rainer Avenue Radio show comes on? Check out our show schedule, updated weekly at raineravenuradio.org.
All right. We are back. Yeah. I'm getting flack about I got to do a better picture of our special guest of Percy Allen. Man, I'm trying to work Photoshop, but anyways, Percy, thanks for hanging out for the second half of the show. We appreciate that. All right, so what we're going to do is we're going to talk a little bit more of basketball. We're going to talk about Kelsey Plum and everything else.
Hey, I'm sorry. I would be remiss if I didn't. I was listening to the commercial, and I totally forgot to mention, when we were talking about Gus, that there is a GoFundMe, that's being organized by James Donaldson on behalf of Gus Williams, who is trying to help the family. Gus passed away. I want to say he was in Maryland at the time,
Yep.
and they're trying to get the body back to Mount Vernon, his hometown of Mount Vernon, New York. And so there's a GoFundMe that was that went up last week, and if anybody who
There it is. Perfect.
contribute to that GoFundMe to help the family bring Gus back home. Thank you.
Perfect. Thanks. And thank you, D Money, for putting it up there. So there you go. There it is, the honor Gus Williams with the GoFundMe. All right. I guess I would be remiss. Well, all right. I'll read the ads at the end. But so let's go UW basketball. Wrote a, as you always do, amazing piece on Kelsey Plum. Just what was retirement? What does Kelsey Plum mean to, I would say, what did she mean to UW basketball? And what did Kelsey mean to UW basketball? And why is her number getting retired? Is retired, 10 forever, if you will.
Oh, wow. So again, man, I start with the points, right? Because it's hard not to start with the points. And obviously she was so much more than the points. But let's start there, right? Because that's just a good, and as I said, she's so much more than the points. But when she finished her career, she scored more points than any woman, she was a little bit shy of Pistol, but she had scored more points than any woman in Division I basketball. I mean, my goodness, at Washington in 4 years. And the thing that what I remember about Kelsey, so I really only covered her last 2 years at Washington. I didn't really cover the first 2 years, but what I remember was just, here's this gal, and what, she's 5'8", 5'9", again, and going back to Gus, like really similar, that here's your point guard, and yes, she can pass, and she was a really good passer, but here's your point guard, and she is the main producer of the offense. I mean, it was designed by Mike Neighbors for her. And yes, I understand where we are now, and we are in the age of Caitlin Clark, and I get it. But before that, there was Kelsey, and there was this scoring point guard, and she's smaller than Kelsey, and was just putting up points. And the other part, efficient. She was a very efficient shooter. And so she wasn't just jacking up shots, blah, blah, blah. I mean, she was making shots, not just but making shots, and still a good passer. And Maz, I'll take it. I mean, that senior year, I mean, that's kind of when I really jumped on board, like a lot of people did, when she's getting closer and closer, to that record. And, at, I want to say, almost every game, but I just will never forget that last home game, senior night versus Utah, Alaska Airlines Arena. What is she like? She's like 53 points away, or 51 points
Yes.
away from the record. And no one thought she would do it that night. Right. No one thought she, I mean, truly, like people thought, all right, oh, like she's gonna break it. Like it became inevitable at that point, right? Because she had at least two more games after that, at least one in the Pac 12 tournament at the time, and then at least one more in the NCAA tournament. So it was gonna come down, but people thought, all right, let's just wait to Las Vegas. And so many people didn't go to that game because they thought she would do it in Las Vegas. And Utah came in and just pushed them. Washington needed that game, really in terms of seeding. I mean, that's really what they needed that like game for. They were in the tournament. And so they just needed that game in terms of seeding. They wanted to win. Chantel Osahor, their second best player, fouled out. And so it was a close game, and here she goes. And here she goes. And what I always remember about that game is that one, my mind plays tricks on me. I thought it was sold out. I really did. And then looking back later, it wasn't sold out, right? It was like 7,000 people there. But it felt like a sellout because of just the roars and the cheers. And Maz, I kid you not, it was as if everybody knew what the number was. How, I got no idea, but it felt like, and it's not like UW had this tally that was tracking it down and like anything like that, but it felt like everybody knew and after each one, rah, rah, right, and just these buckets, and Kelsey, who's left-handed, and back that time was really left-hand dependent, just these dribble drives going left. Everybody knew, okay, she's going left. She's like going left, and she's either gonna pull up for the mid range or step back for the three. Utah had a really good Lynn, I can't think of her last name, has a really good coach, really smart coach. She knows it. Couldn't stop it. Couldn't stop her, right? And that last one, left-hand drive, somebody coming over, floater off the glass, and if I'll say it again, felt like everybody knew. Big explosion, roars, da 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 da, and Mike Neighbors takes her out. Well, no, actually, she scored a couple more points. He took her out with like a minute 30 left. She could have scored even more points. She had 57. And I tell you, I mean, I've seen a lot of things. I've been to Super Bowls and I'm not trying whatever.
Yeah, you
That's
have.
in my
Yeah.
top five. It's
Wow.
definitely in my top five. I mean, it was just a surreal. It was so cool to see her do her thing. She was truly in her element. 57 points, just was incredible. And then, all right, just on top of that, kind of what she's done with her career,
Yes, yes, yes.
the struggles early. I love the struggles, right? I mean, she came into the league and wasn't good. Just wasn't good. I mean, let's just keep it 100. Just wasn't, I mean, just did not, translate immediately. And she just had to learn. And, again, keeping it 100, I think one of the best things that happened to her was that Bill Laimbeer will stop being her coach. I mean, she got it. Just like, I love Bill, but his brand of ball just didn't fit what like Kelsey wanted to do. They changed coaches, and she gets a coach who truly believes in her. And now she's with Asia. I mean, in that team, she's with Jackie, and she's with Chelsea, and so now she can just really pick her spots, and now she's an all-star, two-time champion, Olympian, and just thriving, just doing her thing. It is going to be interesting to see, so I just chatted with her really briefly, and they asked like, hey, don't really talk about free agency with her, but she is, they like quarter, right? And
Yeah.
so it's going to be interesting to see what they do there. That I don't know. Maybe she goes back to the Aces. Maybe she's with the Storm.
Yeah, there you go. Exactly. So for those that don't know what core means, and help me out here, I think it's like the franchise tag in the
Yep.
NFL.
There you go.
That best way
It
to put
is.
it. Okay. Okay.
Yep. There you go.
All right. And the Storm could use a little help, correct? They've had an interesting off season.
To say the least. Yeah. I mean, like, where did we get? I mean, we began with Jewel, right? And so that, I don't know about you. I don't know how much conversation you've had about this,
Mhm.
on your show, but to me, that came out of nowhere. and I'm still trying to process it with all that. So, the Jewel Lloyd trade request, and that's just like the tip of the iceberg, right? It's not just a trade request, it's the allegations. I mean, that's the real deal there. It's the allegations of harassment and bullying from your six-time All-Star. I mean, that's not, I mean, that's real. I mean, that is real. And so I can only imagine what the franchise is going through. Jewel Lloyd was the face of the storm. I mean, let's just like, I mean, after the retirement of Sue Bird, Breanna Stewart leaves in free agency, it is Jewel's team. And they gave the keys of the franchise to Jewel. I mean, they put her on everything, all the promotions and marketing, and on the on the billboard, all of that, and she thrived with it, right? After that, she led the league, set records, set like scoring records. 2 years ago, last year, still an all-star. The her you know her shooting averages dipped, but they won, but they went to the playoffs, right? And then to have that type of off season to where the allegations come out and then the trade request. So it is going to be very interesting to see where they go from here. Yes, they could use help. Or it's going to be interesting to kind of see how that goes. I mean, if I had to cut to the chase and get to the end of the story, I'll probably trade to some team for a draft pick, high draft pick. And I said the Kelsey Plum deal. I mean, I don't know how that happens. Probably not, but probably something what Chicago did last year with Kalia Copper, traded her to Phoenix, got a high draft pick, got something comparable, in terms of player, and then went on their way.
Yeah, betrayal, I would say the word that comes to me, and that's on both sides, right? You know?
You said that, I didn't.
Well, I can, because I know. Well, I mean, really, if we take a philosophical, relationship, right? We all know about relationships, so there's a feeling of betrayal by both sides here, and I'll take the reins on this a little bit because, I mean, you put a better spin on it for Jewel. I was a little bit like, because if you read in the allegations, it's very interesting about who when the third party came in and made said no, there was no allegations, but obviously, what the rule of the law, that's fine, but from the personal perspective, I mean, it's trust lost. I could have said trust lost, but then it's interesting that I don't like to do too much controversy, but the trainer and all that stuff, there's a lot there. There's just a lot there, but as you and I have always done, we'll keep it 100, keep it above board. I can't think of a worse thing happening to a franchise that prides itself on being on the front end, of women and, doing all those things. I mean, we can say that, it's got to be, to your point, it's got to be devastating. You know what I'm saying? For them, given who they stand for. Not going to take sides. But like you said, what's that going to look like, on the court and then off the court, right? Because you got to balance those two things because they've always, the Sue Bird and everything else, as you said, they've always stood about community and, empowerment. And right now, yeah, there is, let's say, trust lost within, I don't know how deep it is with the players. And then, and then the community, they know the community's asking questions. So that'll be interesting, an interesting situation.
I totally get that, right? And if I can only and like, I don't want to add too much more than that because we really don't know because they've for right, wrong, or indifferent that they as a team have chose not to say much, if anything. And I don't know if that's the way to go because, as you said, the community is asking questions. But yes, that franchise, for everything that they stand for everything that they've done, for everything, just their history. This goes this flies in the wind of all of that, right? And it is, and look, I will keep it a buck, right? And I don't mean to out you or anything, but I'm just really gonna speak for me that it's going to be difficult for some people to stay impartial because of how we feel about, let's say, Noelle Quinn, right? And yeah, I mean, like she has been sort of exemplary, like during her career so far. And like you could say what you want about her coaching acumen and her record and all that stuff, and in-game decision, all that's fine. But how she sort of comes across as a human being, as a person, for her to be connected with allegations of bullying and harassment, I mean, what? What? And then from that to come from Jewel, who she was her mentor, like she has championed, she has stood. That's just, I don't, might as well say it again. I am still flabbergasted, but like, what? Like, and so maybe it wasn't, again, now we're speculating, maybe it wasn't Noah per se, but it speaks to her leadership, right? And I just still find, so maybe it wasn't Noel, maybe it was somebody else, but you're gonna tell me that she didn't know about it? And then that's just beyond, and then for Nneka Ogwumike to be on that team, and who is the president of the Players Union, and it's
Ooh.
just bizarre. It's like, it's a book. It's a book. It's a 30 for, it's an expose. I don't get it. And yet they have said nothing. And that franchise thinks, oh yeah, there's nothing to see here, nothing to do. I'm like, well, it's not, but it goes to, if that was the Seahawks, we would be all over this. Yeah, I mean, it was just
Yeah.
right. Like if that was any other franchise, and so maybe me, are not doing our job properly. Um, but I will say that when the season comes closer, these questions will need to be answered, and it just can't be some, hey, we're just doing this and let's move on. No, that's not gonna fly, right? I mean, this is going, at least for me, I don't know about you, I will be asking this on a daily basis. On a daily basis. And I'm sure, and we know these people, we know Noe. She's probably in therapy right now. I mean,
Oh
I
yeah,
mean, come on, man.
man.
I mean,
Out
man.
of nowhere, I got the fans, I got the pom poms for her just because of the empowerment, and I mean, I think that how she comes across. You know what I'm saying?
Oh my
I'm a
God.
Noe fan. Man, oh
It's
man,
hard not to be. How can you not be? I mean,
yeah.
truly. And it's not, and again, as you said, it's not that I am not a Jewel Loyd fan, because I'm a huge Jewel Loyd. Huge to see when she got to this community as just shy, introvert type of person, to see where she is now. She is a businesswoman. I mean, a
Mhm,
business
mhm.
woman. I mean, she is a enterprise. I mean, she is way beyond basketball now to what she has built her family up to. She is a model of how to do it. And so that's not to say that, look, I'm not doing that. Trust me, I am not. And the way she plays, she is a baller. She embodies that Kobe Mamba mentality. I do will say though, I don't see Kobe doing this though. I mean, but but that's neither here nor there. So
Yeah, that really interesting situation for all teams, and I mean, I think WNBA, the innocence is lost, right? Just in terms of what happens here. Now, if it was the NFL, I know you alluded to Seahawks. They always talk about a machine that knows how to wiggle stuff. But it'll be interesting because the growth where the WNBA is. I mean WNBA. Um, and what is your take on the WNBA right now? Just in terms.
well, obviously this is going to be a huge year, right? I mean, they've got to figure out their CBA going forward. This is going to be huge. That they have the new uh TV deal, which is great. They are flush with money. Now it's just to the point of how do you divvy up the money? I mean, how much are you going to give the players, right? Right now, the max salary is like 240 and some change. Can you get that? Can you bump that up? Like, does that double? Does that, does it tick up a little bit? I know players just want more money. It is still the salaries are still backwards. Let's just call it what it is. The salaries are still
Mhm.
flipped, and just how college basketball. I mean, I mean, players can make more money in college basketball than as a pro. So that's got to change, right? And this idea that that Dawn Staley is, I mean, look, I love Dawn Staley, but the idea that a college coach is making more than a professional player is ridiculous. It's just, I
Mm.
mean the comparison, and I hate to do the men women comparison, but let's do it. The comparison would be Dan Hurley at UConn, who just coming off of 2 wins, right? I mean, really good coach at UConn. You mean tell me that Dan Hurley contract would far outseed LeBron James,
Oh,
right?
wow.
Like Dan Hurley making way more money than LeBron James. That would be ridiculous. Nobody would like, well, yeah, Dan Hurley is a good coach, but he ain't gonna make no more. And so that's what that's what women's basketball is right now. And the closer that can get to being right side, to where players, star players, Asia Wilson, Caitlin Clark, Brianna Stewart, the money, they need to be the driving force with all this. And they need to be paid more money. And so that's where the WNBA is right now. I don't know, and we're probably getting short on time, but
Yeah.
the Unrivaled league that began last week, that's interesting to me to see how that's going to impact kind of what's happening
Mm.
in the WNBA. I don't know if you watched any of those games.
I haven't.
Yeah. Well, see, I'm going to keep it 100. I was all in on that first night. I could not. I mean, it was must see viewing for me.
Right.
But in keeping it 100, that was Friday night, and then the next day was Saturday, and the NFL playoffs were the next day, and so it just fell off my radar, right? And then the next day after that was Sunday, NFL playoffs, and it fell off my radar. And so I do wonder, can it get that sustaining power? But that first night was incredible, and Skylar Diggins-Smith, give it up to her. She made this great in the very first game. She made this game winner over Jewel. Well, it wasn't over, but Jewel Lloyd was on the court, and so that was kind of fun. Just to kind of see those two sort of going at it. But so the WNBA is in not a precarious spot. I think they're in a great spot, but can they keep pushing this boulder up the hill and getting to a good place of growth? There's a new franchise coming in. There's one more in Toronto, so the expansion's happening. And so but the players got to get paid.
Well, there he is, Percy Allen. So appreciate the time, the words, the wisdom, sir. And, we'll hope to do this sometime soon. So thank you again, Percy.
My main man, Miles.
All
Thank you for
right.
having me.
Yep, there you go, Percy Allen. So real quickly, let me do my reads tonight, 5:30. Tune in live on Rainier Avenue Radio. We'll interview the 8 candidates eligible for the vacant Seattle City Council position 2. Seattle Live from Columbia City Theater. High school basketball. I'm glad I'm not on this game. High school basketball this Friday on Rainier Avenue Radio, 8:30. Number 7, Seattle Prep, taking on number 1, Rainier Beach. Hey, I'm not real cool with that. I think Tony and you, D Money, should be at Lakeside for the Garfield girls against the Lakeside. But hey, who am I to say that? All right, next month, from February 1st to the 28th, drop by the Columbia City Theater for the annual Call to Conscience Black History Month Museum. Find out more about this year's exhibits and get your tickets at calltoconscience.world. All right, that's time. Thank you all. Clean Greens is next. Thank you, everybody. And again, appreciate Percy Allen for dropping us with the knowledge and the wisdom. And we out. Thank you all for listening.